And then it was only later on where I started to really consider, wait, who am I? Like, who is Tiarni? What does she stand for? What does she want to do? How can I align that to the role that I'm doing and the things that I enjoy? That then personal brand really came to life for me.
Who needs personal brands? Do you know what I mean? When does it become really important to create one for yourself?
I would honestly say anyone who is ambitious and has a dream.
Hello and welcome, Tiarni and Hannah, to the People First podcast, the Young Careers podcast. I'm your host, Jordan, and today we're tackling a topic that I am so keen to get into, which is personal branding. For the listeners, I'm joined by Hannah Parr, a personal brand coach and founder of Amplify, and my friend Tiarni Goodall-Perry from Brook Street. She's our operations manager in the public sector. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you.
I'm really happy to have you. I think this will be a really nice conversation about something that probably will resonate with a lot of people, or good advice for a lot of people. But before we get started, something we ask all our guests is, what was your very first job? I'm going to come to you, Hannah, first. And I'm not talking like, I need like the pre-national insurance, like the paper rounds, like that sort
If
of
I'm
stuff.
going to be honest with you, this is actually quite funny, and I've never been asked this, but so when I was little, like I was obsessed with making money.
Yeah.
And I would do anything. And I just have to give a bit of context. So we had Friends on video up to season 4 and then no more, right? And do you know how Friends season 4 ends? With like, take thee Rachel.
Right.
You know, right? And then nothing for years and years and years. And then I found out that there was this thing called Amazon.
Right.
And you could buy DVDs now to watch, and I was like, I need to do anything I can to make money to buy those DVDs because it was like quite far from my birthday and Christmas. So I said to Dad, what can I do? Give me any job. And he said, he sort of looked around and he goes, well, Hans, I'll pay you 20p a poo to pick up all the dog poos.
Brilliant.
So that was my job. My first ever money-making job was picking up all the dog poos in the garden, double time on Monday mornings after Sunday roast, because the dogs would get a bit of that.
Because they're full,
They're full. And that was actually my first ever job when I was like 7 years old, was picking up the dog poos.
Not as glamorous as today's world, I don't think.
We've come a long way now, but that was it. Like, I was willing to hustle whatever I needed to do to make money.
That is one of my favourite answers I've had to that question in the 20 episodes that I've filmed, honestly. Now, how are you going to tap that? Come on.
I'm absolutely not going to. I feel like my first job was really traditional. I had a job at McDonald's. As soon as that NI number came through, I was like, I want a job there. And I mean, even now, sometimes I'm like, do I need a side hustle back at McDonald's? It was great. Nothing kind of hits like, you know, putting the salt on some fries.
Yeah, I know. I can get that as well. And plus,
and how glam does it sound now?
Exactly.
The McDonald's first job compared to the dog poo first job.
I know.
Well, that's true. Yours is way more exciting.
Yeah, I quite like that, to be honest. I think I know from my friends that worked in McDonald's, there was always like a really good team culture. There was camaraderie and like that sort of stuff. They were always out doing stuff and things together. So that's a good one. From there to now, it's like a good shift. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I've spoken about it 1,000 times, but I used to work in Topshop and I used to think I was the local celebrity. I would be going into school like flogging like Joni jeans to the girls with my 65% discount, and I loved it. And like leaving school, leaving A-levels in sixth form and going to work in Topshop on a Thursday night was like the coolest thing that I could done. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. I still think that is cool.
And they're coming back.
Are they?
They're coming back.
No
I just had a fashion
way.
show last week, and I'm telling you, I would consider getting a job there again.
What, as in the shops are coming back?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I've missed that. That
This
makes
is
me
a
feel
moment.
emotional.
I believe so. I know.
That was actually sad when that happened.
I know.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it shows probably the age demographic in this room that we know when it happens and we're craving for it back. What I just liked about it though, and it's something like we're going to talk about in personal brand, is that you saw like Kate Moss go in there, as well as like your teacher from school, as well as like the cool girl that you knew from around the area, and then like Alexa Chung was on all the walls. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like a real like part of, it was like a hub for cool girls in training. Do you know what I mean? Moving away from Topshop, which is something I can talk about all day, but how did you find yourself in the position you are now in this like world of personal branding? It's a really interesting career trajectory from picking up poo. So I would love to know some of the steps that you made.
It's so random, isn't it? Personal brand coach. Like, For a tiny bit of background, so my parents launched the first online business network in 1998. So before Facebook, before LinkedIn, they started it together. So me and my brothers grew up in the world of social media and business networking way before everyone else did. So that was what we knew, having an online profile, like building your presence online, all of that sort of thing. So it was normal for us.
Yeah.
And when, as I said, I loved a side hustle. So I'd, help mum and dad out with this and with that and anything like that. And as I started to get into the workplace and wanting to get jobs and things like that, I worked at hairdressers, I worked as a waitress and go up.
Same, literally. Hairdressers and a waitress, same.
And then went to university and all of that, and then thought, right, I need to go to, to get internships, all this sort of stuff. And I just didn't do well on paper. I was just not a very good on paper person. But once I was in front of someone, I could get through the door. Mm-hmm. So I started to think, right, I'm going to use, how can I do this personal brand thing? How can I do it in a different way to application forms and things like that? And it worked. I started to get jobs and things started to work. So when I then left my corporate job and I moved over to Bali, because I was like, I want to work life out. I went through a bit of a personal trauma and I needed to reset. And I thought, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What does the world need? What do I love doing? And personal branding for me is really the balance of personal development and career or business development. It really sits on the balance of that. And that really satisfied my ADHD brain to have this breadth. So I knew I wanted to be a coach because coaches basically help people to achieve goals. And I did that anyway. I didn't even know that was a job. So I thought personal branding plus coach, personal brand coach. So I sort of made it up. And back in 2018, when I started, there weren't really any personal brand coaches. It was very made up, which was actually very good for me. My timing was perfect in the market. And I was able to start with quite a lot of early success. But it was essentially a made up job because I knew that this online world was growing and the opportunities were there, but most people didn't know how to make the most of it. They didn't know how to make themselves as good as they were online as they were offline. And that was just something that I enjoyed doing and I was good at doing. So that led me into where I am now.
That's amazing. Yeah. And T is, I don't know if you have anything to sort of add. Is personal branding something that you have thought of personally, throughout your career?
I would say that at the beginning of my career and leaving university and feeling like I needed to get into a job, it definitely wasn't something that I'd considered from day one. I think at that point for me, it was about how do I fit in? How do I become my best corporate self? And what should I be doing to fit into the mold? And then it was only later on where I started to really consider, wait, who am I? Who is Tiarni? What does she stand for? What does she want to do? How can I align that to the role that I'm doing and the things that I enjoy? That then personal brand really came to life for me. And it's creating this space between freedom but then accountability and enjoying what you do. And I think it takes away from that black and white corporate view to you're able to add your personality to exactly what you're doing.
That's such a nice what you just said is perfect. That's a nice way to explain it, I think.
And when we hear personal brand, I sort of always think about LinkedIn and stuff like that, or maybe you're on Instagram and that sort of stuff, but in a professional setting, what do we define as a personal brand, would you say?
I honestly, depending on the conversation I'm in, I think you can define personal branding in so many different ways. I think what you just said is completely true in terms of, I think it is, first of all, having the clarity of who you are, what you're the best at, what you want, and having that, what's your best self, right? And that, and then turning that into a strategy. So yes, if you're building your personal brand externally, LinkedIn, Instagram, great. Within a company, it's the same kind of thing. It's just about being known for what you're good at.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually what it is at a simple level. It's just be good at something and be known for being good at that thing. Because, in the world, perception is reality. And there are so many people that are so good at their job and they're so good at what they do, but they're invisible and no one knows. And personal branding is saying, I'm good at this thing. This is the thing I want to be good at. This is an alignment with me, but I'm going to be known for that. So I'm going to meet people, make friends at work. I'm going to, talk about this thing, and I'm going to have a good elevator pitch. So when someone asks me what I'm good at, I can present myself well.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think it really is just about the conscious creation of yourself and that then helping you to achieve your goals, whatever that is. Your personal brand is just you, but thought about, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, you've put that pretty perfectly, to be fair. But again, I would say it's very much about how other people experience you. And I think when I think about my personal brand, it's always about when I leave the room and I'm not there, or if I go and do a panel, how are people going to remember me afterwards? Like, what path am I leaving behind me and also creating in front of me? So it's all about like how people perceive you and how you remain still yourself, but align it maybe with other goals or projects that you're working on.
Yeah.
I love that. Path behind me, path in front. That's gorgeous. Love that.
And to the room for the listeners, who needs a personal brand? Do you know what I mean? When does it become really important to create one for yourself?
I would honestly say anyone who is ambitious and has a dream. I'm never of this mindset of like convincing someone to do it. I think sometimes I go into a situation and someone's like, convince me. I'm like, hun, like the opportunities are there, the internet is there, the tools are there, the strategies are there. I would honestly say anyone who has any ambition or any goal or dream that they want to achieve in whatever field they are in. My cousin's daughter has a new boyfriend called Finn.
Hey, Finn.
No, but Finn's really a really good example of this. So Finn's 19 and he's really ambitious. He loves making car parts. Like his dream job for his whole life was to work in like F1 and you know, I know nothing about cars, but you know what I mean. And he said that he overheard, I think it was on a podcast or on YouTube, that posting on LinkedIn would be good, like build your personal brand. He didn't know what it was. He started posting on LinkedIn 4 times a week with his designs that he'd been making on this like CAD software. And within 6 months, in fact, I think it was within 3 months, but I don't want to like lie, but it's something around that time, he received an inbound job interview opportunity for the top car parts manufacturer in the UK that I can't remember, and my dad and brothers would be like, Hannah, you idiot, because they knew this brand when Finn was telling us, and got the job. And he's the youngest person in that role because he posted on LinkedIn. So honestly, like, so whether it's like a job in like car parts or you have ambitions to have a new role or be a musician, you know, whatever it is, I would say anyone who has any ambition to achieve any dream.
That's a good one. I'm trying to think, like, I think I have a good personal brand, but I'm just trying to like pinpoint what I think it is. And I don't know if I've ever told you this story or told this story before in the podcast, but my career in recruitment started because of a cup of coffee. Like, I went to a really low-level marketing interview at the Magic Circle law firm, and like it wasn't by no means like a sexy job or anything like that. It was like what you just wanted to get to like keep you ticking over. Like I wanted to just go out in the weekends, and I needed like a good bit of money to come in. And I worked with a recruitment consultant, and I remember I had a really good interview, and I just wanted to meet her and chat about other opportunities and stuff like that. And I brought her a coffee, and she was so blown away that I had like done that or something. Like I just thought that was, I come from a customer service background and a hospitality background, so like being like, do you want something, can I get you something, is like just within my nature. And I ended up I left the chat with her, she spoke to her MD, and they said, this really cool guy's come in, he's brought me a coffee. Oh my God, that's amazing. And I ended up working there for 4 years. So that's literally is what led me to like the role I'm in today in recruitment marketing, was because I was nice. And I think I've tried to, and what I do tell my younger friends and things like that, or maybe people who are coming up the career ladder, is make yourself approachable, be friendly, like do things for people. Like I will always say and figure out how I'm going to do something without overworking myself. But I just think like, if I am seen to be someone who's like willing and like helpful and like, you know, enthusiastic about something that you're doing, I may not be like amazing at what we're actually working on, but I'm honest with you, and you know that we're trying our best together. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's definitely that like willingness, or like that adaptability, or like just sort of wanting to like champion people or get to know people has like really opened up like so many doors for me. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
I don't know if you have the same experience or like can relate to that. But...
Yeah, I mean, when my mum and dad what you were doing there was like high quality networking. And I think people don't like this word like networking, so they think it's like whatever, inauthentic or cringe, whatever. But like networking is just like getting to know people, building relationships.
Connection,
it's building connections. And when I speak in companies, because I teach entrepreneurs and people, you know, that's like my main job, but then I also speak in companies, and it's a different personal branding, different angles there, because, you know, these people are, let me build my brand, let me post on Instagram, I want to have a podcast, and these people are going, I want to just grow up, I want to grow up the ladder and I don't want to make too much noise. And one of the activities that I teach in that workshop in companies is to ask someone for a coffee.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is a perfect example of why that works, because of the laws of reciprocity, whatever, how, that word, reciprocity?
Yeah.
Do you know what that means?
No, I have no
okay,
idea.
so reciprocation.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
so
yes,
if I
yes,
do
yes,
something
yes,
for
yes.
you, we are biologically, like, in our brains inclined to do something back for you.
Yeah.
Because that's just how humans work. Like, if you do something for me, I'll do something for you. So actually, even though you weren't doing it in this strategic sense, you just were a nice guy, by asking, let me buy you a coffee, the person is more likely to then actually help you. That's why often men buy women drinks on nights out.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
it does actually work. And how simple that you could meet that person, reach out to someone on LinkedIn, ask them for a coffee, and then, like, who knows what could happen. But the thing is that we just don't do it, because either we don't know to do it, but you guys are obviously solving that with your podcast, or we're too nervous to do it, or we think it's cringe, or we think it's this. And that's the personal development side of personal branding. That's where you have to do that part.
It's the cringe thing that I want to pick up on. And, like, I would say we're all pretty much around the same age on this table. So, and I
feel like I'm older than you, but I'm going to take that.
Okay, no, you know what I mean.
Botox is Botoxing.
As I approach my 30th year, and there's, like, I've got younger friends, I've got older friends, and I find some of, like, the younger people I know aren't as willing to, like, like, make coffees and, like, go for drinks and that sort of stuff like that. But what I always try and say is, you have, just like being that, like, water cooler culture in an office where you could just stand beside someone and can speak to someone. Like, surely that does open doors. That person will remember you and, like, remember those things. I think bringing it back to the personal brand, how do we actually figure out what our USP is, what the thing is that we're offering?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough question. I always say start with, what do you love doing? Because normally what you love doing is also what you're best at. And if you zoom all in on that and really find what puts you in your highest flow, that normally then defines what your USP is. Do you see what I mean? Because a lot of us try and, your USP is your unique selling point. What makes you unique? What makes you valuable to have around? And in a work context, it's usually what value do value do you provide? And the more that you focus that around what you love, which usually is also what you're the best at, that then usually helps you to clarify your USP.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm going to come to you with a question that's not in the script, and it's just because I really want to know. As someone who I think has a really good personal brand amongst our business, right? When you were on the phones and you were speaking to candidates, or people are in interviews, do you think you can see it straight away in someone, or do you, like, look for those little moments of stardom in people? Do you think it comes across straight away?
I think so, because I think that, especially over the telephone, it's so easy to be robotic or to respond with the way that you think the person wants you to respond and things like that. And I think people that have the confidence and autonomy to go off script, as we would say, or, to let their personality show through, like, they're always the people that stood out for me. And they're also an easier sell into a client if I think about the recruitment world, because you kind of, even though that conversation only lasts for like 10 or 15 minutes, you feel like you really get to know that person and who they are and what they stand for and their values and how it's going to align with the client or with yourself, etc. So I feel like, it's really easy to pick up during a telephone conversation, or, like, even with you, Hannah, like, within the first 10 minutes of meeting you, like, straight away you're giving me enough for me to understand your personal brand and what you stand for and your values.
I agree.
Like, so I feel like it's very easy to pick that up.
Well, the more authentic we are, the more magnetic we are.
I agree. I agree.
We live in a world where we sort of want to be like everyone else, and we want to dress like everyone else, and we want to do all this stuff that makes us fit in. And for some people, that is them being authentic. But for a lot of people, that's them pretending to be something that they're not. And, like, I spent a lot of my life when I was younger feeling like I needed to change this or change that, whether that was a personality thing or a physical attribute, so that I could be more like everyone else. And the more that I stepped into my true self and started to love who that person was, the more magnetic I became, the more that things started to come towards me and the right things started to come towards me. So I think when you're saying there someone has the confidence to go off script and all of those things, like, what you're feeling is that magnetism, because you know that person is like who they truly are. Whereas we feel, because we are so intuitively driven, we've got 95% of our thoughts are subconscious. We're doing it through intuition. Like our whole body basically is our like subconscious, and we're feeling it. We're feeling a vibe. We're feeling an energy. So even if you can't put your like finger on why that person is or isn't like ticking the box, it's because your body is like feeling their magnetism, or if they are out of flow, they are unaligned, they are trying to be someone that they're not, the repellent energy that they're giving out. And so many people are giving out that repellent energy now because they are blocked by whatever. I don't want to be cringe or this or that. And it just causes people to, and then it becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because then they don't get that, and then they think they're this, and it goes down and down and down. Whereas those people that were authentic, it goes up and up and up. So they become more themselves. These people become less themselves, and that's how you create a gap between the successful and the unsuccessful.
For sure. I think one of the things, like, and you speaking, I feel like is very reaffirming, is creating an environment where people can be themselves and they can bring forward their personal brand. And I think a lot of what you've just said about, we magnetize towards people and things like that. I think, in the corporate world, we have to have leadership that allow us the space to be authentic and to be ourselves and to grow. And I feel like that blocker can sometimes come from when you're in an environment where people don't allow you that space to do that. So it's really encouraging.
The thing with that is that the best way to do it is to embody it. So the leader has to do it. So there's a lot of problems in companies where people bring in people like me to come and make everyone do X, Y, Z, but the leader themselves aren't doing it, but actually you create shift by embodying things, not by telling people what to do. And, if the leader wants to create an environment where people are able to be their most authentic, magnetic selves, the leader has to do that as well. And that can be challenging for some leaders who aren't like ready to do that. But if you look at like some of the big, leaders that we have in our world, they might not be liked, fully, like if we think about Elon Musk or someone like this, but they are magnetic because they are authentic. And, the more that we can like embrace those sides, those parts of ourselves, the better. But it does take a huge amount of courage. And I think that the personal branding journey is a journey of courage and bravery. But once you start, like, you can't stop because it works. That's the thing.
For sure.
I used to be quite insecure about my voice and like how I spoke, like was it too gay or was it too Irish or like that sort of thing. And I remember one of our older team members, he was from Northern Ireland, a different generation from me, and I remember speaking to him quite freely about how I was worried about going to present on like a QBR or something like that. And I've always quite found that if people couldn't understand me, that they would just diminish that quite quickly or like shut me down quite quickly. And he was a leader in the business, I guess, sort of reframed that and was like, one, if they don't understand you, they're just going to think it's charming and it's memorable anyway. And two, like, no, it's not like I can just stop speaking like this. Do you know what I mean? And that was like a really affirming moment for me as well, because I thought I felt like it was like a good thing to have rather than like I just have this fucking annoying voice or something like that.
I mean, the first thing I thought about you was how fabulous your voice is, first of all.
You.
So I'm glad to embrace it. And second of all, and this is easier said than done, I would say, but if you aren't free to be the fullest expression of yourself, you're in the wrong room. You're in the wrong role. Like when I was in some jobs that I've had before and I was pushing myself into this box and that box, and like, because I felt like I needed to be this person, and the best parts of Hannah wasn't right for that. That was not where I was supposed to be. And it does take time to carve a life out where you are in alignment with the things that you're best at, the things you love doing, the things that make you, like your fabulous voice. For example, look at where you've ended up with doing, as an example, doing this podcast. This is perfect for you, right?
Yeah, thank you.
So, and this is the room that you're supposed to be in, and this is the thing you're supposed to be doing. But we have to find those jobs, those roles, those companies, start those businesses where we being the fullest expression of ourselves actually makes us more successful. And that can be tough because if you're out of alignment, and I was out of alignment in a lot of jobs that I had, not all of them, but some of them, and it made me feel really rubbish, like really bad about myself and feeling like I needed to change and be someone else. But now the more that I create that and live in that environment where being this true Hannah is not only allowed but makes me more successful, then the whole thing flows much more. So I think that's important to bear in mind, that if you're not able to be that fullest expression of you, then you're in the wrong place.
I'm going to come to you next, T. So is there a balance needed between being authentic and strategic with your brands? And can it be both?
I think that it can be both. I think
agree.
that strategy provides a focus. I'm really passionate about that. I think having a strategy and understanding the strategy is what gives you the focus. You then apply your personal brand and your authenticity to that, and you bring a new perspective.
Yeah.
I think if we're all the same and we're all trying to fit into a mold, then it comes across very textbook. But I think actually you can then bring your authenticity, your ideas, a different viewpoint to the table, and actually you've then molded the two together.
Yeah.
So actually I think they complement each other really well, and it's just about how we better align and mesh the two together.
Yeah, I think, and
Totally agree.
for your context as well, Hannah, I think like the project we worked on last year, myself and Tiarni both lead like BRGs, we call them. They're like internal affinity networks. So I head up the queer network, Tiarni heads up MERD, and we got to work on like a global affinity network summit with like the head of DEIB and like loads of really cool stuff. And I felt it was really good for us because we're young in our career. Both of us are hungry and starving to do better and to do more. And we worked in this project with like a couple of people around the world, and the exposure that gave us to like talk about the things that we cared about as experts. We felt amazing after doing that. Do you know what I mean? It was really, really good. And then thinking back after that, like when we worked with people who are head of TA across the whole globe, you know, like the global diversity champion, like those doors aren't going to close, like those relationships aren't going to go away. So I think it's just really important that you leverage and you be strategic about it. You know, we could have said no to doing that, but we knew it would have a benefit for us, for example. So
for sure.
To the listeners, like if there is something you can get involved in and work that's going to like accentuate you or what you do or what you can do, please try and get involved.
Yeah, that's another one of those actions. You know, I said about the coffee.
Yeah.
That's another one of the actions. There's 4 that I do that I encourage
Can we hear the
people
4?
to do.
I would like to hear the 4.
Yes.
Yeah. So the first one is to get really clear on your elevator pitch.
Right.
In personal branding for entrepreneurs, I call that like your message. But in companies, we call it elevator pitch, a bit more corporate. So, and we talked a bit about that. You know, what is it that you love? What are your goals? What are you the best at? So that you can really communicate that clearly if you do have an opportunity to meet someone. The second thing is make sure that any of your internal systems and your external LinkedIn profile are at least up to date. You don't have to post. I know that posting is like quite a big thing, but make sure it's at least up to date. So if somebody finds you, it's accurate. And I have some little processes around that. The next one is to go for coffees. So we talked about that. Ask people for coffees and learn how to, build relationships and help people out and start to live in that reciprocal world. I need to work on that word. And the fourth one is to, and this is probably the hardest, the one that you just mentioned there, is about putting yourself into environments where you might get, exposure through speaking, through being on panels, by just putting yourself out there. So they sort of go up in steps, I would say. And obviously if you do all 4, then that's a great way to build your personal brand within an organization.
Yeah, I agree. And I think an easy way I agree with everything you just said. And that's like really, really good points to break that down in those 4 ways, because I can notice things I have done that align with those, if that makes sense.
And I really like your 4 points because I feel like it's all part of how personal brand evolves. And I think if I think back to when I started to think about personal brand and going back to the question about strategy, we were seeing a lot, and it's quite personal to me, but there may be people that can relate, these strategies that were like, we want to have so many Black women in leadership by a certain time. And I allowed that to become like my brand. And I was like, well, the colour of my skin is what's going to help me succeed. And it was only when I started to understand personal brand more and network and reach out on LinkedIn or talk to people that I wouldn't usually talk to and take on these new opportunities, that those opportunities were created for me, but it allowed me to expand my mind in terms of like, what is my brand? What do I want to be known for? Like, I want to be more than just superficial, surface level, like this is colour of my skin. Like, what do I enjoy?
That's so
what's my
powerful.
personality?
It is,
Do you know what I mean?
it
And
is.
that's helped me become who I am today.
But I know this
That's
because
so good.
we work together. But I think it's inspiring whenever you say that you didn't see yourself in leadership or in the business, and you created that route for yourself. That's not. I think that says that your personal brand is hunger, it is ambition. It's like that real drive that every recruitment organization should be like blessed to have. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's real. I love whenever I hear you talk about things like that, because it's not something that I ever consider, but I can see I can see the thought process. Do you know what I mean? And you're arguing with yourself almost, and you're learning, and your idea around your own personal brand is obviously developing as your thought process develops. I think that's really impressive, honestly.
Yeah, that is really impressive, really inspiring.
Yeah. Do we think that having a personal brand will become more important in the workplace? And I'm thinking about like the rise of AI and things like that. As a marketing person, I do feel like my job is vulnerable whenever it comes to AI. I've seen a lot of scary things out there, you know, to come from developing marketing strategies to implementing them. But I know no GBT will be able to replicate my personality. Do you know what I mean?
Or your accent.
Or my accent. So I know that I made a conscious decision very recently to move into a more relationship-focused role because I want to foolproof my career, foolproof my band.
Good for you.
Do you have anything? Have you seen this in the market? Do you have any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think actually next year is when we're going to really see this starting to shift in companies. I think we're going to see people that we like, you know, friends of ours that we thought were quite safe start to see a real, like, as in safe in the old world. I think what you've done is completely right. I don't think that it's going to be a flat loss of jobs. I think it's going to be a creation of new jobs. The work, like the, you know, some of the more boring work or some of the whatever work is going to be done by the GBTs. And yeah, the more human relationship, empathy-led, intuitive work will be done by the humans that are commanding the AI. But I do think that some people aren't taking it seriously enough. So you're obviously consciously thinking about the fact that you need to be in a more relationship role, and you're looking at, okay, well, what can't be replaced? I think that's really, really smart, because what most people are doing is they're actually replacing themselves by starting to use ChatGPT for every single role in their day, and then thinking, oh, I'm winning. When actually it's not going to take long for the company to then realize, oh, that entire role can be outsourced. So there's two ways to look at it. There's the opportunity of, I'm going to have a better job, I'm going to have a more relation-centered job, I might end up spending less time doing the boring stuff on a computer. And you've got that half, and that half's really going to thrive. And I think that half's going to live in a real tech utopia. And I think we're already seeing that. You know, it's incredible that someone like me, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that women couldn't even work or vote. And now I live in my little house with my dog, run my business online, work from anywhere I want, doing, this is work.
I love that.
And that's because of the internet. And that's that tech utopic world that we've been moving into for the last 30 years. But on the other side, that tech dystopia is also growing. You know, the phones taking our minds, the mental health, and the loss of jobs. And that you've got to make a decision pretty fast on which side of that you plan to be on. And I think that's going to be the new rich and poor, is going to be the technically utopic, you know, I've learned how to master tech, and the side that haven't. And I think that we just need to get that right.
I want to finish off on a really positive note. So I am going to ask you both, what is one way that you think that our listeners, one step, that our listeners could take today to start either working on their personal brand or improving it?
So mine would be to write your elevator pitch and be able to communicate, you know, who you are, what you do, what you're good at, what your goals are in a sentence or two. And you can ask ChatGPT to do that, to coach you on that. So if you just put into ChatGPT, you know, act as a world-class expert in writing elevator pitches, help me to write my elevator pitch for blah, blah, blah. And then it will coach you through writing that pitch. I think being able to succinctly say with confidence, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I'm good at, this is where I'm going, these are my results, makes you feel so much more confident when you have that clarity of communication. So I would say do that first, and then pick someone that's ideally that has a career that you like the look of, and take them for a coffee and just, learn, ask questions.
I agree.
I would probably say, and I think I'm thinking about my journey and when I started to really think about my personal brand, is to create, I like circles of like, what's important to you? What do you enjoy? How does it align? What do you want to be, if you even know what you want to be? And then start thinking about how these things overlap, and then how you can incorporate them into just who you are. And it's all about authenticity. That's what underlines personal brand, right? So it's about, okay, how do I now inject this into absolutely everything that I'm doing, and how do I live it and live it as myself?
Do that first and then do my thing.
Brilliant. Ladies, that was amazing. I think that's the quickest anyone has ever spoke on a podcast. We got a lot of words in there very, very quickly because we were all very excited. But
no, they're going to have to slow it down.
They are. they literally are. So thank you both so much. Where can our listeners follow you?
I would say Instagram or LinkedIn, Hannah iPower.
Brilliant. Thank you, Hannah.
And I would say the Brook Street website or the Manpower UK website. Otherwise, I'm on LinkedIn as well, so I'd always welcome a direct message. But yeah, just reach out.
Brilliant.
Always welcome a coffee.
Yeah.
Yes.
Always.
Yeah. And that's the end of today's episode. As always, if you're in the market for a new role, why not check out Brook Street online? There may be a dream job waiting there for you. And if you enjoyed today's episode, share it with a friend and follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you and see you later.